Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Code with Carrero. Today we're going to be taking a look at the modulo operator, and for those of you that are unsure what the modulator operator, that's the operator that we use that will give us the remainder from any type of division. So we would normally use this to give us the remainder for, let's say, a program that would check to see if you have an even number or not, or check to see how much change you have left over. So without further ado, we'll get to programming something like that, and we will show you how we can use it. All right, so I've got my program here all set up. I've just got a class here that I just called modulo op, and we're going to run our main method in there. And right off the bat, what we'll do is, because I'm going to want some user input here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import my scanner here, and I'm just going to go import. Import java.util.scanner. I'll get the right punctuation in there. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll come down here, and once we have that, we're going to declare, we're going to create our scanner object to collect information from the keyboard. So that would be scanner. And then we're going to call our scanner UI for user input. And we're going to do system.in. All right, to tell it to take input from the keyboard. Then what we're going to do is we are going to ask for user input. So to do that, we'll have a display here, and we're just going to say, please enter an integer. Okay, and after it prompts us to enter an integer, I'm going to have an integer here, an int and num. So I'm going to declare a num as an integer, and I'm going to set it equal to whatever it is. Set it equal to our input from our keyboard, and because we're using a scanner for that, we're going to use UI dot next int, because, well, the scanner has to be told what type it's going to return from the keyboard. So whether that's a string, that would just be .next or .next line. If we want it to return an integer instead of a string, we would need to indicate integer, int. So what we would do here is this program is not going to assure the input, because, well, if you input a letter when it's asking for an integer, it will actually crash at line 10, and you will get an error. But we're not going to worry about that too much now. So that's going to get the next input, which is a number. Okay. And what we'll go from there is we're just going to set another integer here. And this is going to give us a remainder, okay? Because we're going to be checking to see if this is an even number or not an even number, right? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to say num modulo 2. So the way to think of this is num divided by 2, and then it's going to return the remainder. The modulo just means that it's just going to return the remainder itself. Okay? So whatever you set num to, it's going to divide it by 2. And if it's an even number, then it's going to return a 0 because there's no remainder. If it is anything other than a 0, then what will happen is that would mean that it's odd. Okay, so let's just throw in a quick if statement for a print. And what we'll do is we'll say if remainder is not equal to 0, then what we're going to do is we're going to say system.out.print, and we're going to say num, your number, or you know what we'll do is we'll do num is not an even number. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll come down here and we'll say else, because if it is, then it's going to be 0. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to say system.out.print num is an even number. Okay, so just revamping the code here, we declare our scanner that'll accept user input. We come down here, we ask for the user input on line 9, and then our scanner waits for the user input and assigns the keyboard input to num. Of course, it needs to be an integer. If it's not, it will crash at that point. And right here, we're just setting a variable called remainder, and remainder equals num modulo 2. The way I tell my students to look at this is it's num divided by 2, and it will only return the remainder because it's still a division function. Okay, and then we go into our condition here for a conditional flow, and on line 13, if the remainder is not 0, meaning, well, obviously if it's anything other than 0, then it's not an even number because it's returned a remainder. And if it is 0, it'll be an else statement, and we would print out num is an even number. All right, great. So what we're going to do is we will run this right now. Just going to hit run. And you can see down here, it asks for an integer. I'm going to say 7, and it is not an even number. If I run it again, I'm going to do 8. Put our cursor down there. 8. And it says that 8 is an even number. So the modulo operator is a really handy tool for grabbing the remainder from a division. It can be used for many different things. When I give out assignments that ask for change, things like that. If you want to figure out if something is divisible by something else, let's say you're trying to divide things into different groups to see if things are divisible. Those are other functions. So many different ways to use the modulo operator, but hopefully this clears up any questions or concerns. Well, doubt can you have concerns, but any questions you have about the modulo operator. All right. Hope this helped out, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care.